Hi, I'm Rida. Welcome to Ben TV show. I'm with Dr. Maria Pallotta-Chiarolli.
Hey, Rida.
It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Maria, would you like to tell us a bit more about your background, not only just academically, but also if there's any identities that you identify with?
That's a good one. So we're talking about Kimberley Crenshaw intersectionality straight away. So I was born into an Italian family, migrant working class background, had no English when I started school back in '65, grew up in a backyard shed, corrugated iron shed with lots of land. And from there was a lot of racism at the time against Italians and being working class and not having English. And growing up in a very, what I guess a lot of Westerners call extended family, we just call family. And then from there, I just learnt a lot about feminism from the matriarchs, the women in my family and the wonderful men in my family. Grew up in a very multicultural queer community. I think I became politically more savvy in the, probably when I was in the late 80s when one of my best friends, John, died of AIDS. And I kind of spoke out as an ally and wrote a book, and money went to Bobby Goldsmith. And from there, I've just followed branches, Rita, and really done as much as I can as an ally for various communities, Indigenous, disabilities, multicultural, LGBTIQA+, and yeah, identify straight, and this is it, this is me, and I'm nearly 60.
That is lovely, Maria, and that's where, you know, I think it's like by now you can see your life's achievements, your work that has come forward. And so our focus today is on the LGBT people from multicultural backgrounds and multi-faith backgrounds. And I was hoping if you could share some insight. I believe there's an academic paper that you have published or any work that you have done in this space. And what are the issues that you have found? What are the challenges you have concluded in your research about that?
It's really interesting. I mean, maybe it comes from my background and growing up with people casting all sorts of stereotypes on my family, and the fact that the men and women were so pro-feminist and amazing, and we had queer family members and communities, and we were also very anti-Catholic because of the Lateran Treaty between Mussolini and fascism, which really decimated the little village communities of my family. So for me, this intersectionality that we call it today has always been part and parcel of what we do. So I've always been writing about migrant families, multicultural families, queer issues, sexualities, genders all the time, either as academic research. I mean, I remember, Rita, this is way back, but I remember being told when I did my master's in women's studies back then, I said, oh, I want to work with lesbians of Italian background, and my lecturer turned around and said, oh, how will you find them? Are there any? Like,
oh, wow.
And I'm like, we're talking about my friends and family, you know, like it's just part and parcel of what I do. So all the way through, I've just followed branches and been an ally and used skills that I can do. So some of the work has been this incredible book, Living and Loving in Diversity. And I am a so-called academic, but I get into trouble sometimes because I believe that work should be accessible, and I believe in decolonising research process, and I believe in respecting participants, and part of the research isn't going, thanks for your story, see you later. It's about, well, how's this project going to contribute to you? You own your work in this project. You can take it in whatever direction you want. And for me, that's what we call decolonising processes, which comes from First Nations peoples.
Absolutely agree with you on that, because storytelling is a way of not only inspiring people, but rewriting the history as per your own ownership of it, as per your own willful narrative that you want to promote in society as part of your community, with consent from your tribal communities, consent from your LGBT communities, consent from your faith communities. So having that outlook is absolutely important, and this book certainly covers that.
Oh, thank you. It was a gift to do.
Were there any specific issues that you found in the book per se, like or that people from multicultural and multi-faith backgrounds shared?
Yes.
I mean, you mentioned racism earlier, and you have mentioned gender issues earlier. So would you like to elaborate more on that?
Sure. I think, and this comes into the issue of younger people now, and incredibly very confident young people like yourself, which is awesome. And that is that the right to live in any community you want to be, to identify in any way you want to. And that means that your religion, your faith, your cultural background, your sexuality, your gender, these are all the various settings and various senses of yourself. And I think what came through this book is that, you know, it's not just that stereotype of the migrant or refugee family that has problems, but often a lot of our communities don't feel they belong in the LGBTIQA+ spaces because they're either very affluent or Western, or there's a whole lot of criteria to fit in. And what if you are a person of faith, or what if you are a person who wants to navigate their sexualities and what they do sexually? Or so for me it was about, how do we make this world a really great space for people to live everything about themselves and not fight with each other? And I know, Rida, you and I have had these conversations. There's a big picture out there, this massive infrastructure that just loves it when we all have a good fight.
Have a bit of bickering with each other. Absolutely, absolutely.
The divide and conquer. Let's get the Indigenous queers against the multicultural queers, and it's like no. In the end, the big white supremacy doesn't move. White straight supremacy
absolutely
doesn't move.
And that's why this book is so profounding, and your work is so profounding, Maria, because in a time when no one wants to cover these stories on Australian media or even other Western media, you came out and actually collected an anthology and stories of people together. Obviously, we're thankful to everybody who contributed to the book, and the contribution they have made into the book, Living and Loving in Diversity. What a beautiful title. And there was a conference that followed up this book as well. And that's where I see that the solution forward for the multicultural and multi-faith communities might be that we need to focus on the bigger picture.
Yes, and find our spaces. And I need to say I'm so lucky to be working with and part of my AGMC family, which is the Australian LGBTIQ Multicultural and Multi-Faith Council, because they gave me the job, which isn't really a job, to actually put this book together. And I got to be the fangirl, you know, Patrick Abood, Faustina Agoli, all these, you know, Paul Capps, all these amazing people like yourself. You're in the book and your piece was so beautiful. So it is about rewriting the past. It was also because within the queer spaces, we didn't know that there were multicultural groups who'd been there for a long time, like, you know, the Italian and Gay, Yellow Kitties, Queer Muslim Network, Muslim Collective. So we wanted to get those stories recognised. And people gave us the most intimate stories and photos. There's photos of all these little, can I say woggy kids, because I'm a wog, like all these photos of like school, and, you know, there's Paul Capsis in his communion outfit, and there's Patrick Abood in his high school, you know, his prime. So for me, the intimacy, the sharing of, and celebration, you know, that we have cultures and we have faiths and we have ways of being and sexualities and genders. It should be celebrated and affirmed. And we have histories. You have an amazing Pakistani Muslim history of queer. Where is that in our history books?
Absolutely, and on that note, that's where the celebration of multicultural identities beyond just festivals and whatnot. And I think based on that, that is what I find. This is why I find this book to be so profounding. This is Rida Khan. You're listening to, you're watching Ben TV Show, and thank you for being with us.